Let's talk about
Zeitgeist.
the zeitgeist. So, Canadians done
Wait, hold
made a
on.
mistake.
If you're new, at the end of the show, we cover some cultural topics about longer term issues and how culture is changing. And it's always at the end. So we don't do any hard hitting news. Although sometimes there's hard hitting news that's connected with zeitgeist that is blended. So this is now the end of our quick bits, and we're now into the cultural commentary portion of the section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We had enough people to push us past 666 subscribers. We're now up to 685 subscribers as I say this. So do click subscribe. We are on a new channel if you just showed up. So with that, let's talk about the Franklin the Turtle and what he can teach us.
The Canadian publisher of Franklin the Turtle has made a mistake in that they responded to anything fan-made. A Toronto-based children's publisher has learned the hard way that scolding a polarizing political figure like, I don't know, Sec War Pete Hegseth can backfire spectacularly when the internet decides your beloved turtle belongs to the culture now. There was a stern statement issued last week by Kids Can Press, which is the home of Franklin the Turtle. Sec War Pete Hegseth joked on a podcast that bureaucratic Washington moves slower than Franklin the Turtle. Publisher pushed back and said, "This is inappropriate, and this gentle reptile stands for kindness, inclusion, and problem solving." So naturally, that made everyone latch onto it.
An obscure podcast interview by a secretary, which we don't pay a lot of attention to secretaries. In fact, most Americans couldn't name very many secretaries, right? Maybe you can name the Secretary of State, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War. Some people can name, but like nobody knows who the Secretary of the Interior is. But this Canadian publisher felt obligated that this obscure political comment on this obscure political podcast by a American secretary must be responded to. And so something no one knew about suddenly became a big issue. And by big issue, I mean Franklin the Turtle has been trending on X all week long.
Who is Sec War's biggest fans? Okay. The veteran population of America. And do you have any idea how much Thomas censors me? Okay. And I'm one of the nice ones. Okay. I'm a church going Baptist, and Thomas still censors the crap out of me. You brought visibility to Franklin the Turtle as a meme opportunity because this little polite Canadian decided to say, "Oh, you can't go after our turtle. You done made a mistake, man."
I was on X, I was scrolling, and it was Franklin cover after Franklin cover, none of which were real.
Yes.
Franklin salutes the flag. Franklin retakes Constantinople. Franklin joins ICE.
I saw worse ones because I'm in the veteran community. Okay.
Franklin does war crimes, whatever.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So, and some authors like, no, this is copyright violation, which actually it's not. So
fair use.
Copyright does not prevent people from parodying your work of art. In fact, parody is one of the most protected forms of fair use. And the court's been really clear on this. No court judge and Supreme Court justice wants to be seen as the guy who killed parody. That's not what you want on your tombstone as a Supreme Court justice. So when Saturday Night Live makes fun of some brand or some copyrighted work, that is all protected under parody and freedom.
And Franklin the Turtle is more popular than it's been in 20 years.
I don't know.
Everyone's like, what's
it's more famous. I looked up the sales numbers on Franklin the Turtle, and the books aren't selling. And I think what happened was, for a lot of American buyers who are only vaguely aware of who Franklin the Turtle is, now they associate Franklin the Turtle with being a woke Canadian. And they don't trust a woke Canadian character with their children.
I think more specifically, they label the maker of Franklin the Turtle as an idiot. Not necessarily as a woke Canadian. I feel like that's just off the mark. But they're like, this guy must be stupid. This is what he's fighting about. This is what you're caring about. I mean, like, I feel like that's what's happening because you don't want to give something to your kids that was made by an idiot, right?
So let's bring this in and talk. I'm going to talk practical stuff, and then Jonathan's going to bring us back to Zeitgeist, because this is a classic opportunity to talk about PR crises and how to handle a PR crisis. So first off, if you're a foreign company or a foreign author of any country, it's best not to comment on this other country's politics if you want people in that country to like you, because politics is complicated. Now, I realize that I break this rule, and I comment on European politics quite a bit because I follow European politics quite a bit. But I do so with the full acknowledgement that I'm probably not going to get any money from Europeans. And so I'm like, okay, I'm giving up my chance of making money from Europeans. But that's okay, because my audience is not very, especially the paying audience, not very many of them in Europe. So let's talk through the classic 7 strategies of dealing with a PR crisis. And I didn't come up with these. I was taught these in political training. They're so famous that I don't think they're even attached to any one person. So the number one response is to ignore. And this is almost always the best approach. For most of you, this is all you need. And if the publisher behind Franklin the Turtle had followed this one, this would not be a story. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. One that I recommend for most authors is to just go on vacation. Go camping for a couple days, put your phone away. And the internet is unable to stay focused on any topic for more than one scaramucci. So scaramucci is a measurement of how long something can stay in the narrative.
Right.
And Scaramucci was a guy who you don't remember. Everybody hated him for like 5 whole minutes on the internet. And now no one remembers who he was, which is why I love using him as a measurement of time. So that's one approach. Just go on vacation. In my dream, I'm in the middle of some firestorm and I just take my family on a cruise for 5 days. I'm disconnected from the internet, and we come back from the cruise all sunburned, and whatever it was has blown over.
Because fires have to be fed. And when someone returns fire, you get more fire back.
Yeah. Somebody's saying 5 minutes. It's not a literal 5 minutes. This is a figurative 5 minutes. I think it was a whole 3 news cycles. So there's a more advanced version of ignoring a topic, though, which is called flooding the zone.
Yeah.
And this goes to there was somebody on the Trump team who developed this technique, but this is where you just fill the channel. I think the CIA has been doing this for decades, actually, but where you fill the channel with a bunch of distractions, with just other noise. And occasionally I will handle issues on authormedia.social this way. So something will bubble up on authormedia.social, and I will go through these 7 things, right? Is this something I need to ignore? Is this something I need to use one of the other 7 strategies or one of the other 6 strategies with? And sometimes I decide I need to ignore this, but I want to flood the zone. And so what I will do is I will comment on dozens of other posts, which will then push those posts up above whatever it is that I want ignored. And then when people see that I've commented on their post on authormedia.social, they will comment, and it creates all this noise. Mm-hmm. And whatever the thing is that I want buried ends up getting buried without having to bring any attention to it. And I don't get into conspiracies very often, but sometimes I wonder if, like, anytime Taylor Swift is changing her relationship status, if there's something in the news that they want buried.
Aliens again are in the news.
Yeah, it's like, or anytime there's aliens in the news, I'm like, okay, what's going on in the news that they want distracted from? Because some people, once they hear about aliens, that's all they can talk about. So that's strategy number 1, ignore. And then the 2 strategies: go on vacation, flood the zone. Strategy number 2 is to deny, where you just say that never happened. Now,
not real.
Sometimes this is a good strategy. And sometimes saying very clearly the United States Army had nothing to do with the creation of Lyme disease. And we want to state that unequivocally.
Who asked this question?
Why is there a whole section in Wikipedia denying this fact?
What?
It's like, I had never wondered if the United States Army was responsible for the creation of Lyme disease until they denied it.
Never answer a question your girlfriend hasn't asked yet.
So occasionally a denial is a valid strategy, but far more often ignoring is far better. Now, Another strategy, and this is not a subset of denial. It's actually its own element, and this is the riskiest of the 7 strategies, and it is righteous indignation. This either is like unbelievably powerful and helps you, or it blows up in your face. This never is subtle. This is how dare you?
It's
It doesn't
100
deny it.
to nothing. It's complete commitment. It's just
it doesn't deny. The most famous version of this is some politician is caught in some scandal relating to the opposite sex. I'm trying to be very delicate with my language here because I want to try to keep this a family-friendly show. And the spouse, right? So you have Senator Smith, and he's been accused of some bad behavior. And Senator Smith's wife gets up and is like, "How dare you? This is a private matter." And that often is very effective, actually, surprisingly effective, because if she has righteous indignation, other people are kind of uncomfortable and they don't know how to handle it. And sometimes the story just goes away. Righteous indignation is what the publisher of the Franklin books used. Kids Can Press on a very small story, and instead of making it go away, it made it suddenly a very big story, which did not go well for them.
You returned fire.
It suddenly became interesting. Something, and in general, when dealing with a PR crisis, you don't want the crisis to be interesting. You want to make it as boring as possible. And this is why flooding the zone works so well, because you're making other things more interesting in comparison. And it's why ignoring often works so well, because it makes it very boring because you're not taking the bait. Denying makes it more interesting. Righteous indignation makes it really interesting.
Super interested.
So you almost never want to use righteous indignation as your strategy. The next strategy is to apologize. And this is also a very risky strategy because apologizing validates whatever it was that you did was really done. And you're acknowledging that whatever it is that you did was bad. In general, I don't recommend that you ever apologize unless the purpose of the apology is to restore a relationship that already existed. So you'll notice I recently released an apology because
of my favorite thing ever.
Because of what has been referred to as tip jar gate. So the problem with tip jar gate was not that I spammed people, although that was part of the problem. It was who I spammed were my very own patrons with whom I have a relationship, an actual financial relationship where they give me money and expect not to get spammed by me.
Oh, man. Oh, so good.
So I could have denied it, which would have been a lie and not worked. I could have had righteous indignation. How dare you notice that I sent you 7 emails in 5 minutes, all looking like
Get
I
off
asked you
my
for
back.
money. So I used a combination of, and often when dealing with some sort of event, you can use a combination of these strategies. So what I did was I apologized and I used the next strategy, which is to clarify. So what I really meant to say was, so clarifying can be kind of, this is what I meant to say kind of approach, or this is what I intended, or it can be,
see, what had happened was,
or it can be, this was taken out of context. If you listen to the very next sentence of what I was saying in the podcast, it gives a completely different spin on it. And this is often the best approach when like somebody's maliciously taking you out of context, where you're like, terrible people have said X. I disagree with X and I believe Y. And somebody clips that and all they have is you saying X. They cut out the first part where you say terrible people say X, and then they cut it right before you say I disagree with X. And so if this is the case, ignoring it's no good often, because it's right there on video that you said X, but you didn't really say X. They did this to Charlie Kirk all the time. He would be rebutting some argument, but he would be stating the argument as a part of his rebuttal, and someone would clip just him saying the argument.
Right.
And then coming to the conclusion that he is a terrible person because he said this bad thing that he was actually disagreeing with, if you would just listen to more than 5 seconds of the clip. So clarifying and apologizing. You never apologize to an enemy, ever. It just makes them hungry.
You're giving them power.
Apologies. Yeah.
You're giving them moral standing. You're giving them the high ground. If you're a Star Wars fan, don't ever do that. They're the enemy. They're supposed to be hurt by you.
And whether they're an enemy or not is their choice. So you can
Yes.
like, oh, I don't have ill intent towards this person. That doesn't matter. If they are shooting at you, they are shooting at you, right? You don't have to have ill will for somebody to self-identify as your enemy or to do the sorts of things that an enemy would do. And it's their actions that define them. All right, so clarify. The sixth strategy is to diminish, right? Say, this is getting blown way out of proportion. So one way to do this is to minimize, right? This is just a tiny fraction of what we do. Sure, some of our food is poisonous, but most of the food that we sell doesn't have E. coli. Diminishing very rarely is the right strategy, but it's sometimes putting things into context is like, I've said many things and this one thing was bad, but it's just one of many things. The other more common version of diminishing is to deflect. You see this a lot in politics. We're like, sure, I did this corrupt thing, but the other guy is way more corrupt. What about Senator Smith? He is super corrupt. I'm only a little bit corrupt. This is best done by a proxy.
Right.
Whataboutism, not often a good strategy. But occasionally it is the right strategy, and it is in the toolbox.
Anytime we saw in the Marine Corps, anytime we saw the PR department putting out something like, look at all the humanitarian missions Marines do, we're always like, wait, what'd we do? What war crimes were committed where? Like, what'd we do? Was it funny?
All right. So I'm realizing we're almost out of time. We have one more zeitgeist, right? And then we have the zeitgeist angle of this. The final approach is to embrace it, where you just say, yes, it happened, and I'm glad it did.
We're Marines.
Yeah. So one way you do this is just double down. Right. Yeah. I did it, and I will do it more if given an opportunity because I believe in this. And
Orc City, perfect example.
What?
Orc City. There was an indie fantasy author who had a really weird prologue, and the city was literally called Orc City. People tried to jump all over him about it, and he's just like, Orc City's mine now. And he put the Orc City meme under every response to people that were trying to ding his work. And it was perfect. Great response.
In our world of moral relativism, doubling down is shockingly effective.
Yeah.
Because people can't have moral authority over you if you have an entirely different moral framework than them. And so rejecting their whole moral system outright takes away their moral authority over you.
It's not a war crime the first time.
So it's very different than righteous indignation. Righteous indignation works when you already share a moral framework.
Yes.
And you feel like you have the moral high ground. Embracing it is saying, I have an entirely different moral high ground with an entirely different set of morality.
And this is something Pete Hegseth does a lot with a lot of the changes that are in the military. It's like, look, we have a different culture, and you need to understand that. He's doing a mixture of these things, but he's mostly embracing the changes. He's just doubling down.
Yeah. This is also really effective, I would say, for anybody inside of a religion when your religion is getting criticized. So if you're a Christian and you're being criticized for some Christian view that you have, don't ignore, don't deny, don't apologize, don't clarify unless you're being really mischaracterized. Just double like, yes, I'm a Christian and we believe in demons. It's like, what you'll gain are the allies that you already have, and what you'll lose is the enemies that you already
had.
Yeah, it's like people are hungry for courage, and they're hungry to see courage in public figures, whether it's an author or a publisher or a political figure. And the most appealing form of courage is moral courage. And this is why doubling down it's not the best strategy. The best strategy is still ignoring. I open with that because 9 times out of 10, you just ignore it and it'll go away. There's another kind of embracing it, though, that's a little bit different than doubling down, and that's joining in on the joke.
Yes.
Which sometimes you can do both, right? You're selling t-shirts that are meme t-shirts that are doubling down and joining the joke. But sometimes it's like, you know what? It was funny. And you make fun of yourself, which I did a little bit by letting Jonathan roast me with Tip Jar Gate, right? It's like, okay, everybody get your laughs out. It was funny.
Letting me roast him.
Thomas, the tech guy, has tech problems too. It's true. And so very often this is actually quite effective, and it really takes the power away, because if somebody's trying to make fun of you for something and you're making fun of yourself for that same thing, it takes all of the bullies leverage away. And you're like, yeah, I do have a funny looking nose, or I do
Nicknames
have a funny laugh, or
yeah,
whatever.
nicknames in the military are totally based on some mistake you made.
Yeah. The very first mistake you make defines you for the
Yep.
rest of your life.
And we will roast you for it, and you'll get strong, and then we're a unit.
Yeah. And the more you fight it, does righteous
Yes.
indignation make it go away, Jonathan? If I'm righteously indignant about my nickname?
Absolutely not. We're just like, oh, this is gonna get so bad for you.
Yeah. So if you're a Canadian publisher and some random American politician has referenced one of your fictional characters vaguely, let's go through these strategies and work through.
No, it's the first one. You just ignore it.
Yeah. But all of them are better than righteous indignation.
All of them.
And it's interesting because when it blew up in their face, they pivoted and tried to diminish. But diminishing never works as a backup strategy. It only works initially.
Yeah.
And so by the time they tried to diminish, the horses were out of the barn. And now they have lost control over their turtle.
Yes.
Who is becoming the face of the United States military.
And I hope they try to take it to court because it will bankrupt them. This is not a battle that they can win.
No American jury is going to side with a Canadian company trying to silence American political speech. That is, you're not going to find an American jury that's not a winning case. And that's not what you double down on. So, Jonathan, do we have time for the next part of this story?
Let me blast through it real fast so that we don't have to save it. Okay.
If
so
you're waiting for Obscure No More office hours, I will be going to that immediately after this. So I know it's supposed to start right now. Well, I'll be a little bit late for Obscure No More office hours. I got started on this. So I'm sorry about that.
An example of doubling down that didn't work is Disney. So Disney has for a decade or more doubled down on a woke agenda to an audience that didn't agree with it. Like Disney's audience has been primarily families because they got their rise out of family feature films, the cartoons, stuff like that, or like Davy Crockett. You remember those old time classic movies that Disney was churning out by the dozen? That's where they got their rise. That's where they got their start. That's where they got their brand image from. Then they switched into agenda to political ideology, or more social ideology, really. It wasn't political. It was more social. And started getting a lot of controversy. They got a lot of flack. Frozen was a major center of this. Now, Frozen had enough of a... I would call it a fortified position because little girls loved it.
The song "Let It Go" was very catchy, despite the fact that it's very morally bankrupt. Like the message. And so
for little girls, they don't care about the philosophy behind the song. Like they're little girls; they just want to wear pretty dresses, sing catchy songs, and have their hair flowing in the wind and stuff. But it proved to be, you could see aggressive social milestones that were being put forward in Disney's movies. The first gay kiss, in an animated feature. And it was just stuff that was designed to move goalposts, and they took so much flack for it, especially with all the content they created from Marvel and Star Wars.
And they shifted their goal from making money to cultural engineering. They're like, we're going to make culture different. We're going to make the world a better place based off of our moral system by changing the moral system of our viewers whose moral system is backwards.
And then there was a lot of temple defiling too, because if you want to break someone else's culture down, you defile their temples, which I think is what's happening with Narnia right now, but that's my personal opinion. But Disney has quietly removed all references to DEI from its latest corporate social responsibility report. Their filings now emphasize broadening storytelling to reach the widest possible audience, but this time it didn't have the DEI benchmarks attached that it normally does. It still mentions inclusive hiring, supplier diversity, but the language is softer and non-committal compared to their hardline stance from previous years. Wall Street seems to have enjoyed this. Their stock went up about 3% in the 2 trading days that came after the report's release. Several major studios are watching this carefully. If they can sustain or improve their box office and their streaming metrics without all the DEI stuff, other entertainment conglomerates may follow suit. So this is a major deal in that they're not putting that strong foot forward anymore. In fighting parlance, you broke his stance. Okay. He's setting himself against you, but if you can break that, and now he's like kind of holding back a little bit because he's not sure what you can do. Like he totally misread the situation, has now moved too far. This is where Disney's at right now because they have taken enormous financial hits on like everything they've released lately.
And they've lost a lot of brand equity, which is one of their biggest assets.
Families don't trust them anymore. You don't just get the next Disney movie anymore.
When I studied branding in business school, and in like every case study since then, there's a handful of brands that were always referred to as these are the brands that people tattoo on their bodies. And the top three were always Disney, Harley Davidson, and Apple.
Right.
And both Disney and Harley Davidson have had massive brand equity loss because they forgot who their target readers or their target users were, the target customers. So Disney got distracted by the Disney adults who come to their theme parks and forgot that they're a family brand for children, and that there some kinds of people have far more children than others. And some kinds of people don't have any children at all. And they started focusing more and more on the kind of people who have hardly any children or no children, trying to get their adult money rather than remembering who their core audience was, which was children. And they reversed that. I had a friend who went to Disney World just a few weeks ago, and he reported back that there wasn't any rainbow vomit anywhere in Disney World. He was really quite surprised because he was expecting there to be rainbows everywhere, and there weren't rainbows anywhere. That Disney had quietly gotten rid of all of the rainbows and everything that represents from the kind of official positioning of the park, trying to make it more family friendly for a shifting zeitgeist, a culture that now is more suspicious and more cautious around that sort of thing.
So someone brought up a good point in the chat. Do activists care about money, though? And no, the answer is they do not. Activists are parasites. They are not producers. An activist must be supported. Why? They have to spend 12, 13 hours a day out there holding a sign, right? They're not working a job. They have to be supported and sustained by someone else. So the activist mentality is burn it all down. But the people who have to keep a company running, who need to have the money to be able to support these kinds of things, that ebbs and flows. Okay, you know what? We've burned through our budget for being able to do this. We now need to make money so that we can get back to doing this, but we need to make money.
And a lot of authors who are struggling to sell books have that exact same activist attitude, but over different issues.
Yes.
Right? So I know a lot of people are like, oh, this is too political, but it's like, it almost doesn't matter what the issue, from a marketing perspective, it doesn't matter what the issue is. What matters is, are you in alignment with your customers? Are you the kind of author that your readers want to read from? And are you writing the kind of book that they want to read? Because if you're really pushing your agenda in a very distasteful way, they'll just leave, and you'll struggle to get readers. So you have to learn how to present your message in a way that scratches the itch that your readers already have. And for more on how to do that, listen to my other podcast, Novel Marketing, and come back next week for Author Update. So don't forget to like this new channel, our new home.